How do you level a Templar as fast and efficiently as possible on a Leaguestart with zero budget? Hi guys, I'm Asmo and today I have for you an updated Templar speed leveling guide. This leveling strategy can be used to level any elemental spellcaster Templar build, but it is especially good if you're going to play any kind of a brand build, such as Penance Brand Inquisitor, which is going to be my League starter, and that's why I put extra effort to figure out the best way to level a Templar right now. This guide comes with a detailed POB, and I will also upload a new Act 5 run that shows the exact path you should follow in the next patch to efficiently get all of the skill points, including the new Crypt skill point. Before leveling, I highly recommend getting a loot filter prepared specifically for this build, and here are some items to highlight that will save you a lot of time and currency while leveling. 3-link blue in Act 1, 3-link blue in Act 1, 2-link green-red shields in Act 1, 3-link green-red shields in general, goat's horns in Act 1, jade amulet and heavy belt in Act 1 and 2, and 1.6 attack speed wands for the fastest shield charge speed. And if you're interested in using my personal Templar leveling loot filter that I use for this build, I share all my filters with Patreon supporters, and you can find the link to that in the description. Now let's get to the actual leveling. Step 1 is to mule a ranger. Before making our Templar character, I highly recommend creating a ranger first and killing Hillock with it. Making a ranger grants you access to a full vendor reset for both vendors, extra scrolls of wisdom, and the momentum gem from level 2. It takes about 1.5 minutes to do and will save you more than that. Use this regex to highlight items in the vendor for quicker search by pressing Ctrl F and Ctrl V. This will highlight items with at least 2 blue sockets, movement speed boots, 4-linked items, green-red 2 links for your shield charge setup, which should be ideally socketed in a shield, and that will basically set you up for everything you need. In the beginning, you're looking for a 3-link blue, or at minimum 2 linked blue sockets, 2-link blue-red, and a red-green 2-linked shield. Also, you're looking for coral ring, ideally with a high implicit. And the rest of your gear, you want as many blue sockets as you can get, with an extra green socket for Act 2. At level 2, pick up Rolling Magma as your quest reward and link it with Elemental Proliferation. Use 2 Driftwood Scepters until level 4, and after that swap to a wand and a shield. With the new attack speed buffs to wands, our shield charging will be even faster than before. Try to get Goat's Horn as soon as you can. They are now 1.4 attack speed, making them even better for leveling. At level 4, after Mudflats and killing Hellrake, pick up Flame Wall, Frostblink, Quicksilver and Arcane Surge as your quest rewards, and then buy Holy Flame Totem, Shield Charge and Summon Phantasm. This will cost you 3 Wisdom Scrolls. Equip them all and link Holy Flame Totem with Summon Phantasm. Around level 8, after killing Dweller of the Deep and right before fighting Brutus, pick up Combustion as your quest reward and link it with Rolling Magma and Elemental Proliferation if you have a 3-link or whenever you get one. Your ideal setup should now look like this: Rolling Magma, Elemental Proliferation, Combustion, Holy Flame Totem plus Summon Phantasm, Shield Charge plus Momentum, and Flame Wall, Frostblink plus Arcane Surge. This doesn't have to be 3-linked together, but it would be ideal. If your Holy Flame Totem is socketed in a 3-link already and you have an extra red or blue socket there, and you have a spare transmutation, you can also use added fire damage or added lightning damage in this setup. Check the vendor for Goat's Horn if you have extra wisdom scrolls, and ideally you want 2 to 4 fire damage on the implicit. After killing Brutus, pick up Flame Dash as your quest reward and use it instead of the Frostblink. In Act 2, after completing the Chamber of Sins, pick up Herald of Ice as your quest reward and then buy Herald of Thunder. Use them both. You can also buy Wave of Conviction and you can use it right away or after the level 28 swap. This will cost you 2 alterations. Do not pick up the quest reward for killing the Weaver immediately, instead leave it until you get a 4-link. If your 4-link has all blue sockets, then you will pick up the concentrated effect. If your 4-link has 3 blue sockets and 1 red socket, then you will pick up Cruelty instead, which is the ideal setup. The gems given as quest rewards gain XP similarly to gems sold by the vendors, so whenever you pick it up, they will have an appropriate level. Buy Flame Surge. When you pick up your quest reward from Act 1 Town, it will cost you 1 transmutation. And for the Bandit quest, I recommend 2 choices. Either kill them all and get the extra skill point, or help Kraken for the extra movement speed. Helping Alira is a crutch that, in my opinion, is not necessary and very quickly becomes obsolete. Your resistances should be good just from bench crafting them on your gear, and for the fastest leveling time, I would recommend helping Kraken. In Act 3, take Flammability as your quest reward after defeating Piety in Crematorium, and buy Anger. You can now use Anger instead of the Heralds. You should check the vendor for 4-links anytime you're in town from now on. Your ideal 4-link colors are blue, red, or 4 blue sockets. In Solaris Temple level 2, make sure to pick up the fire damage recipe from the side area next to Lady Diala and a jade amulet from her. Wearing a Jade Amulet as well as a Heavy Belt is necessary to meet all of your attribute requirements. As soon as you get to the Ebony Barracks, you should pick up the waypoint and head up to the right to the Imperial Gardens. Grab the waypoint there as well and do the library. Try to improve your cold resistance before entering the zone, or you will risk getting frozen to death or at the very least significantly slowed down. From the library, you should pick up Fire Penetration as your reward and then buy Haste and Faster Attacks. This will cost you 1 transmutation and 1 alteration. If you have at least 3 alterations left after that, you can also buy Blood Rage while you're here. After that, go to Act 2 Town and buy Elemental Focus and Faster Casting. You can also pick up your Weaver quest reward from Silk. You'll need another 2 alterations for these gems. Next, you kill Gravicious and take Armageddon Brand as your quest reward. At level 28, you want to spec into the Runebinder Keystone and swap to the Armageddon Brand plus Flame Surge. If you hit level 28 shortly before acquiring Armageddon Brand, then you can just leave the passive unallocated until you actually get the gem and then swap to your new setup, which will ideally look like this: Armageddon Brand, Elemental Proliferation, Combustion plus Cruelty, Flame Surge with Arcane Surge, Faster Casting, and Elemental Focus. Those are your 2 4-link setups. And then we have Wave of Conviction and Flammability for debuffs, Haste as our main aura, Shield Charge, Momentum, Faster Attacks for mobility, and Flame Dash for mobility, and optionally Anger. You can swap between Haste and Anger if you have them both socketed, using Haste for clear and then Anger for boss fights. Just don't forget to swap back to Haste after the fight, or just keep Haste on at all times to make it simple. You should also craft fire damage to spells on your weapon as soon as you can. Ideally, you do it on a 1.6 attack speed base, such as the Carved Wand for the fastest shield charge. The craft costs 4 transmutations. I recommend doing the Labyrinth around level 33 at the beginning of Act 4. Once you ascend as Inquisitor, pick Instruments of Virtue as your passive, and this allows you to take advantage of the attack damage of your weapon, which will now apply to your spells as well. After killing Malachi, buy Hex Touch from Petarus and Vanja and link it with Wave of Conviction and Flammability. You will need a 3-link blue for this setup and 1 Alchemy Orb to buy the gem. Later on, after you pick up some life regeneration passives or get the Pious Path Inquisitor passive, you can look to fit Blood Rage plus Automation in your gear and turn it on for the rest of the campaign. You can buy them both from the library or from Act 3 Town for 1 alteration each. From this point on, the setup basically remains the same until the end of the campaign. Once you pick up the mana reservation passives, you can run both auras at the same time and just continue working on your gear and resistances until you progress to the maps. Now let's move on to the POB, where I'll explain the passive skill progression and the remaining contents of the POB. So as you can see here, we have a lot of different trees that I'm gonna go over first, and then we're gonna go through the skills and items and see what is listed in there. So we're starting by picking up this passive, Precision for attack speed, cast speed, which is going to help you move faster with shield charge and give you extra damage. Then the second setup is simply picking up the Holy Dominion, Light of Divinity, and Discipline and Training. This is just like the most raw power we can get very early on. After that, we're pathing actually through Amplify. I looked at POB, and this actually is a superior pathing, gives you more damage, gives you AoE, and is very good use of your points rather than going through the end node here. After that, we're pathing straight to the Fire Wheel and picking up the Fire Mastery for 100% increased damage with hits against ignited enemies. We're going to be igniting enemies with our Rolling Magma, which is linked with Elemental Proliferation that gives it a chance to ignite. It's also linked with Combustion that gives it a chance to ignite. We also have chance to ignite from the Holy Dominion, and later we will also pick up this node for extra chance to ignite as well, totaling at around 70% chance to ignite, making it a very consistent passive. Next, we're pathing to the Elemental Overload and picking up a couple of cast speed nodes. This also gives you some mana regeneration, and after that, this is basically when we are level 28. At level 28, we're picking up Runebinder, and then you have 2 choices. You either pick up the Runesmith and then also the Dex node here for our haste requirements. This is mathematically the most single target damage. However, you also have an option if you're missing some resistances of picking up the Life Mastery as well as the Firewalker through here, and that is another option. Otherwise, just go with the mathematically best option and then do this right after. We can pick up either the 30 maximum Life Mastery or the reduced cost mastery, which we'll pick up later from this one, but you can swap them around as you see fit. Then we're picking up the Mana Mastery as well as the reservation nodes. This will allow us to fit the second aura, the Mastery for life for the reduced mana cost, as well as the regeneration nodes. These are really nice if you want to run the Blood Rage setup very early. As soon as Act 6, I think you can have these passives, and that's gonna make it so that you shield charge faster and you do more damage. So this is actually basically just damage and speed. That's how you want to look at this. Then the 8/3 that we are picking up goes to Divine Judgment. This is a lot of damage, chance to ignite, lots of extra life here, as well as some strength for our strength requirements. Next thing we're pathing toward is the Heart of Flame for extra fire damage. After that, we've got a couple of good nodes still to pick up, such as Arcanist Dominion and then Heart and Soul. This is just like best stuff to pick up that's still around. And then we're starting to look forward toward our swap and go for more of a endgame setup. So the brand equity is something that I'm going to be using in Penance Brand of Dissipation, but even just leveling with Armageddon brand, this is really nice for clear particularly, because we can have the mastery for brand attachment range, so we don't have to pick the mastery for 2 extra brands, and this can give us 2 extra brands, which can give us better clear, because you can have 5 brands doing damage at a time to multiple different packs as you're zooming past them. So this is actually very convenient for clear. After that, we have the Eldritch Battery that we're going to be picking up, and then you can basically look at the swap, or you can just continue playing with whatever build you're doing. The order of the passives that we have for Ascendancy is first Instruments of Virtue, but you could also elect to go for Sanctuary into Pious Path from the Cruel Lab and skip the life regeneration nodes, and then use Blood Rage after that. I prefer going for the Instruments of Virtue. It's simply the best damage early on, and it's a node that I will be respecking later on, but this is very powerful for leveling, particularly if you find a rare weapon like a rare wand with extra flat damage to attacks. This will help you a lot. It's very powerful with that. The swap to Penance Brand involves changing some skills and then setting up for like low life, Mind Over Matter EB setup where we can sustain RF. That is something that I made specifically for Sanctum, and I'll talk about it in a moment. But this tree also exists here just to have it all together. But you can just ignore that last tree if you're going to be doing some different build. So now let's look at the skills. So for skills, you have a few setups. So first setup is the early leveling. So this is level 1 to level 28. You have Rolling Magma, Eleprolife, Combustion. This is your basic damage setup. Holy Flame Totem, Summon Phantasm. This is normally what you will have most of the time, but sometimes you will have an extra 3 link and you will have an extra transmutation. And in those cases, you can either buy added fire damage or added lightning damage depending on the color of your extra sockets. That's why they're not selected here, but they are here listed as an extra option just so you know that it exists. Then we have Flame Wall, Arcane Surge, Frostblink. These do not have to be linked together, but it is ideal to link them together. If I could only link one of them with Arcane Surge, I would probably actually link the Flame Wall for more single target damage, because it does benefit from that. But I think the Frostblink is also a very valid option depending on how much you're using it during single target fights. So you can just pick whichever you prefer. Shield Charge, of course, with Momentum. This is now something that we get from level 4, which is extremely good. And then in Act 2, Herald of Thunder and Herald of Ice, because Herald of Ash no longer gives extra fire damage to spells or increased fire damage to spells, or rather more multiplier. So this is something that we're using now instead, and it's very nice for clear. I find it actually very fun to play with, and just as fun as Herald of Ash, and it's just as good until we swap to the next aura at level 28. So this is the level 28 setup. So we have Armageddon Brand, Elemental Proliferation, Combustion, Cruelty. That's the ideal 4-link. That's what we have selected here. And then we have Conk Effect, which we can also get from Act 2. If you have 2 4-links that have all blue sockets, then you can run Conk Effect instead of Cruelty. And then in Act 6, you can also swap one of these for Immolate, for example, the Cruelty or Conk Effect if you have like all blue sockets. Then we have Arcane Surge, extremely underrated skill, great single target damage, amazingly convenient to use, much better to use than Cremation on things that are like just bursting down a quick rare or an essence, or a boss fight that is a little bit shorter, or a boss fight where you don't have time to set up, or a boss fight where the boss moves a lot, which is most of the time it's better than Cremation. Cremation is superior on a couple of fights, but most of the time it's just almost as good on pure single target damage, and just quicker setup and easier to play and easier on your sockets. So I vastly prefer this setup to Cremation. So Flame Surge, Arcane Surge, Elemental Focus, faster casting, that's your ideal setup. However, if you have 2 4-links that have a 1 red socket, you can also use the Fire Penetration that you get from the quest reward from a library. Then we have Wave of Conviction, Flammability, and in Act 4 you're gonna need 1 Alchemy, and so save that if you find it early to buy the Hex Touch, link them all together to just use it with 1 button press. You apply all of your debuffs, and it's very convenient. Then we have Shield Charge, Momentum, faster attacks. Very self-explanatory. Faster Flame Dash. Then we have Haste and Anger optionally here. So you want to use Haste for clear, Anger for single target damage. You can swap if you have both of them socketed. It's very easy. You first turn off one of the auras and then turn on the other one. You don't lose any mana. You can just continue casting right away. It's very, very convenient to do. Takes, 1 global cooldown, let's say. It takes, half a second to do, and it's very, very useful to do. Just remember to put haste back on or just keep it on at all times. And then we have a Blood Rage plus automation. The frenzy charges are extremely good. They give you cast speed, they give you damage, they give you attack speed for your shield charge. It is extremely powerful for clear. Once you can turn it on and sustain your life, it's amazing. So I highly, highly recommend it. And then the last setup I have here is for the Penance Brand of Dissipation. So this is the end game setup that is designed specifically for Sanctum. So I made sure to wrote it in the notes. In the items, I have this setup for Sanctum as well. You can just change it in the leveling. I just put the wand and shield so that all the passives work. But this setup is for the Penance Brand of Dissipation. That's why in the notes here it is reflected that this is not designed for mapping, because if you wanted to map, I would recommend either using Impulsa and scaling some AoE, or just using a different brand like a Storm brand or something else for clear. So this is specifically for the Sanctum, and that is basically it about this. You can also have the regex here, right? So this is very convenient. You have the regex in the same POB. If you learned something from this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can see when I upload the full Act 5 run on the new Templar leveling strategy with the 325 pathing, and the links to my filters and the written version of the guide, which also exists, are in the description. See you next time. Bye bye.